We are live on YouTube at the moment as well.
Yes, yes.
I don't think I've ever been live on YouTube, so it's a first for me.
Yeah, so we are live on YouTube. Awesome. All right, so we're starting now. So hi everyone. Welcome. Welcome. I trust one sec. We have had an amazing day, right? And our week is starting out cool on a very cool note. We are not like all choked up with work yet. It's still early, right? So welcome to Tunga's Soft Skill Bootcamp. Uh, so I'm Bami, and I will be your moderator for this bootcamp. I'm super excited, yeah. I'm so excited to be here with everyone. So I'm just going to run us through some quick things we need to know about this bootcamp and about Tunga in general, right? And I'm going to be sharing um, some um, some rules of this bootcamp. Okay, so let's get to it. Okay, let's get to it. Oh, sorry, I didn't need that. So yeah, welcome so these are the outline. We have the introduction, then the about Tunga, and then the bootcamp agenda. Yeah, and so this is my beautiful self. Hi, I'm Oluwabamike Mikayode, and I'm the community manager at Tunga. I will be your moderator and your host throughout this bootcamp. I'm so glad to be here. And yes, about us. So Tunga is a software development company that connects Africa developers and design experts to international software terms, right? So we have over 500. As a matter of fact, we have over 800 developers. We live up to our missions to create the 21st century job for African youths. So we see that African youths have so much potentials, and we are now in that space to connect these potentials to the international markets, right? So we have offices in Amsterdam, we have in Lagos, and we also have in Kampala. So if you're in Uganda, you just like, yeah, you're a developer, you get to meet some of our other team members that are making this vision come to life in Kampala, in Lagos, and in Amsterdam. So yeah, moving on. I'm not gonna like dwell on this so much. So yes, Tunga was founded in 2015. And yes, we have the first project prototype in 2016. And then we expand to Nigeria. And of course, where's the best place to expand to Nigeria? It's in Lagos, right? So yes, we have office in Lagos. So we expand into Nigeria in 2017. And um, our first dedicated developer was in 2018. And yes, we are reaching over, I mean, over 500 developers, over 350 developers across Africa. And we have a lot of developers also in Nigeria currently, spanning from Lagos to Abuja to Port Harcourt to
It appeared that we
Hi,
have lost
everyone.
connection with Bami.
Yes, thank you, Reinier. Thank you for jumping in. I believe Bami is sort of having a connection issue, but she'll be able to join us soon. Just to confirm if everyone can hear me as well. Can everyone hear me?
You're loud and clear.
Oh, great. Thanks, Reinier. So my name is Adidolapo Kelvin Ojomo, and I'm the marketing manager at Tunga. So Bami was just taking the introduction about Tunga, and just like she rightly said, we're a staff augmentation firm, and we basically help developers get access to remote job opportunities, international job opportunities, actually. And we've been doing this for quite some years now. Reinier is our first speaker for this bootcamp. Just before it comes up, I want to do a roll call while we also wait for Bami. Please, if I want to see sort of response, if you've heard about Tunga before now, you can just say, just put yes in the comments. And if you've not heard about Tunga before the bootcamp, just put no. I just want to do a roll call before Bami joins back in. Oh, wow. Thanks for engaging, guys. So I see a few yes, I see a couple of no's as well. Yeah. Okay, keep it coming. Yeah, so I mean, good. We have a lot of people who are also saying no, they haven't, even though we've been in the market for quite some time now. But it's also interesting, and we are glad that you all are joining us on this call, because part of the things you'll be learning is also learning about what we do at Tunga, and how we can, of course, help you as well. Also, another roll call. Is everyone here in tech? You could just let us know what you're doing at the moment. Are you working in tech? If not, what other career path are you on? Trainer, okay. And just in case you're sending a message and you would like everyone learning about web development, okay. Fiber engineer, nice. Customer support executive, marketing, project manager, this is nice. QA, medicine, okay. IT students, nice. Chef, interesting. Yes. Yeah, so I see a lot of developers also here, which is good. Fashion designer.
Wide range of career opportunities.
Exactly.
I see. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, so this is interesting to know. And thankfully, I mean, the topic we're discussing cut across every career path. I think it's very important
Absolutely.
that regardless of what you're doing, you do acquire soft skills, because these are the things that would propel you to next level with whatever career path you're on. I'm still waiting for Bami, and
I think Bami is back in the house.
Yeah.
oh, great.
My
Over
internet
to you,
decided
Bami.
to. I thank you very much, Kelvin. So my internet decided to be well. Anyways, so I think Kelvin has said most part of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and just read out our rules and also bring up our speaker for this session. Okay. I almost panicked. So nope. So yeah, I was already talking about the kind of projects, I mean, kind of languages you should know as a developer in Tunga, and they just cut across Python, Node, PHP, Microsoft, Java, iOS, Golang, Android, and so on and so forth. So, so this is a link for joining Tunga, which we'll be sharing later after this. So yeah, so today we have Reinier, and Reinier is the COO for Tunga, and he will be talking about how to develop leadership soft skill for professional success. And you'll be touching the skill, the soft skill, the leadership as a soft skill. You will be telling us about understanding different leadership style and strength and weakness, and developing effective communication and interpersonal skills, and so on and so forth. So before we dive in, these are the rules for the bootcamp. Please mute your mic when you're on the call. Thank you very much. Raise your hand when you have any questions whatsoever. Even if Reinier is speaking and you want a clarity, you can always raise your hand or put it in the Q&A session, Q&A box. So also introduce yourself in the chat box. I think we have been doing that already. Pay attention to the speaker, please, and interact with the speaker when need be. So when Reinier asks the questions and he needs you to provide an answer, kindly do that and let us cooperate together. Be respectful and be kind to each other. Thank you. And yeah, so yeah, this is Reinier. Reinier is the COO. Reinier is the COO at Tunga. Reinier is before Tunga, he has worked in various positions for in Central, and
Yes.
one of the leading ICT consultancy agency in the Netherlands, where he became the first democratically elected managing director in the company. In January, yes, he moved to Uganda, and now Reinier is one of a big African because he has been in Uganda for a very, very long time. And
4 years now.
Yeah, so he has been helping Tunga with the service and organizing Tunga in order for it to scale. Yeah. So yeah, before Reinier, you can try to share your screen now. But before then, we have a short poll for everyone to take. So please kindly take this short poll just right about now as Reinier is setting up. Thank you very much. You can view the poll on your hand. Kindly provide answers to them. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, Bami, for your introduction. So I don't have to do that anymore myself. And then I can just dive into the topic. So today I will be talking about how to develop leadership soft skills for professional success. I'm not going to guarantee or promise you any success. It needs to come from yourself, but I can share a little bit my experiences in what it means to be a leader. And what it means to take leadership, because I think it's an active stance and it's an active skill. So while everyone is finishing up the poll, I can continue, right, Bami? Or you want me to wait for the results of the poll?
Yeah, you can just go on. You can just take the poll.
All right. So the first thing I'd like to ask everybody, and you can use the chat box here, is who do you think about when you talk when we talk about leaders? So you saw this webinar, and obviously you thought, hey, that's that's where I want to be. That's what I want to learn more about. So who then comes into your mind? Who comes into your mind when you talk or when you think about a leader? Any suggestions in the chat? Interesting, yeah. Yourself, bosses, a visionary, and maybe certain names that you think about. Barack Obama, your boss, authority. Malcolm X, yourself also, charisma, Steve Harvey, Nelson Mandela, and Bettina. So there's a lot going on here. And usually I would say that people, when we talk about leaders, or when you see leaders or leadership in the media, you see like figures that had like a large organization or a team. So either, a football coach, somebody who's very, very present in the media, or people think about entrepreneurs. So Steve Jobs, for example, or other entrepreneurs that could be, and that is usually what you think about when you think about leadership. But I saw a couple of answers that really surprised me a little bit, but I'm really happy about this, because that's not who we're going to talk about today. Because today we're going to talk about you as a leader. So basically any situation which requires a decision or a concerted effort to get somewhere, it requires a leader. And I think we've all been in these kinds of situations where, you had to take a decision, or you had to work with your teammates in order to get somewhere. And in those situations, leadership or a leader is required. I saw a couple of raised hands here. So if there are any questions, maybe put it in the Q&A already. Otherwise, let me continue. So what will we talk about today? Basically, I've cut it up into 4 different segments. So first, we will talk a little bit about having a growth mindset. It seems like a different topic, but I will argue that it's very much intertwined. Then we'll talk about personal leadership or leadership styles. Then we will talk about building culture and the importance of building culture. And lastly, we'll talk about situational leadership. And what that means, and I would say that is one of the more important parts of leadership. So let's start with a growth mindset. Now, a growth mindset, it's a topic that you've probably heard in a couple of articles already. So very simply put, having a growth mindset is the belief, or it's believing that you can change your innate abilities. And so on the left side, you see a couple of statements that fit with having a growth mindset. And on the right side, you see a couple of statements that fit with having a fixed mindset. And basically having a growth mindset, it means that you truly believe that you can learn, or you can do, or you can achieve anything that you set your mind to. That, of course, it doesn't mean that it won't be difficult, but it means that you firmly believe that you can learn anything that you would like to learn. So innate abilities they are of course abilities that come natural to you. So for myself, I'm a terrible musician. I cannot really play one note. But deep down in my heart, I do believe that if I would really want to learn, the guitar or the piano or anything like that, I'm able to learn it, right? It will take me a lot of time. It will take me a lot of effort. It will take a lot of determination, but that's not necessarily stopping me. And so what's stopping me? It's my choice to spend my time elsewhere or to do other stuff, which is fine, of course, right? Having a growth mindset, it does not obligate you to learn anything. It's just basically a mental toolbox that allows you to think about your own development in terms that you're not putting any walls up for yourself. So why am I going on about having a growth mindset when it comes to leadership skills and soft skills as a leader? Well, to explain that, I'd like to introduce another concept to you, and that is basically your circle of control, your circle of influence, and the top one is your circle of concern. That's the typo there, sorry about that. Yeah, so your circle of control is basically anything that you can control, right? So these are your actions, your attitude, your beliefs, things that you are capable of doing right now. So what you can control, that you're watching or listening to this webinar, or that you can quit, right? And you can do something else. What you can control is how you spend your time, what you're reading, what you're learning. You can, for example, you can choose to make a phone call to somebody you hold very dear, or you can choose to finish up a task, or you can choose to invest in reading a book or anything like that. These are all things that you have the power to do, you have the power to go over. Now, the second circle is the circle of influence. And these are things that you cannot control, but you can influence. These are the actions of your friends, families, or colleagues, the attitudes or the beliefs of your friends, families, or colleagues, or basically things that you are capable of doing with others or over time. And so let's say you hold a certain belief and one of your family's members or your friends hold another belief, you can talk about it, right? And you can have a discussion about it, and you can influence what they think, right? You can influence their actions also, right? So your colleagues, for example, if he or she wants to make a certain choice, you can have a discussion, you can give them arguments about why you think it's a good choice or a bad choice, and that person might be persuaded to take a different route. And so these are things that you'll never gain full control over, and you'll never be able to tell somebody, hey, I want you to do something right now, and be absolutely certain that that person will do it. But you can have a certain degree of influence over it. Now, the final circle, the circle of concern, once again, sorry for the typo, those are things that that impact your situation and that gives a lot of concern to a lot of people, but you don't really have influence or control over. So these are global events, politics, socioeconomic situations, natural occurrences like the weather, or maybe disasters or traffic. And whatever you're feeling about it is, or whatever you're thinking, your control over it is limited. And so arguably in a democratic country, you can vote, but the overall political system, for an individual, is very difficult to change that. The same happens with socioeconomic situations, or with traffic. I think it's a great example. Yeah, you can be very concerned about the traffic, but it's going to be there, right? So you have a choice either to stand in traffic or not, but you don't have the choice, or you can't control control the flow of traffic. Now, what does this mean, or why is this important to know as a leader, to be aware of these distinctions? That is because if you acquire a growth mindset, you are basically increasing your circle of control and thereby widening your circle of influence. And so if you truly acquire this growth mindset where you believe that you can control what you learn, you can control your abilities, and you can control your potential, that means that your circle of control will become much, much, much greater, and also your influence for others becomes much greater. And that's why having a growth mindset, or acquiring a growth mindset, is a very important first step for everyone who aims or wants to be a leader. Now, if there are any questions about this, feel free to put them in the Q&A. Otherwise, let me continue by, what are then some of the tips for how to achieve a growth mindset? Now, there are 4 tips that I can give you. So the first tip, or maybe the first step, right, is to practice humility and to be thankful. And so having a growth mindset, it means to be humble and to acknowledge that there are things that you need to grow in, right? Now, I just gave the example of music so that's very easy, because there are always things where people are not very good at. But it's more difficult to say that about something that is a part of your job, right? So there are definitely parts of my job that I'm not really that good at, right? Or maybe I even suck at some parts of my job, right? I cannot improve, or I cannot grow, if I don't accept it, if I don't acknowledge it. And so the first part is to be humble, and basically, hey, you practice humility by being thankful. So there's lots of advice out there on the internet. You can practice humility and thankfulness by saying that you're thankful every day, by affirming that you're thankful. And so you can take a moment at the beginning of your day or at the end of your day to say, hey, I'm thankful for this or that, or such and so, or these persons in my life. These are all things that will help your humility. So then the second step, right, or the second tip that I can give you, it is to take risks and to make mistakes. And the reason for this is very, very simple. If you don't take risk, if you don't make mistakes, you will not learn, right? Doing something very good is, of course, it's awesome, right? But it will not give you a lot of new insights to learn anything about. Only when you make a mistake, or only when you see something, hey, this could be improved or that could be better, that is when you basically enter the sphere where you can continue to grow and where you can really discover what it is that you need to learn. And so taking risks and making mistakes, it's, of course, it's something that people rather avoid usually. In a perfect world, we would never make any mistake. But in the world where we are right now, it is the primary vehicle for you to find out what you need to improve at. So as a leader, especially as a leader, I would say it's very, very important for you to make and acknowledge mistakes. Then, if you make that mistake, it is, of course, very important that you persevere. So that you try and try again. That you basically, that you move on and that you see, okay, this is something that I did not do very well, but that you don't give up. If you set a meaningful goal in your life, if you want to achieve something, if you want to grow into a new skill, you will run into difficulties, you will run into mistakes that you make, you will maybe run into concurring mistakes that you keep on making, right? This is all necessary in order for you to learn what it is that you need to improve on and to learn new skills. So what happens in that situation? It's obviously not nice. It's something that people rather try to avoid, but you can only go through it by persevering. Yeah, and I see here something in the chat that is very interesting. So mistakes may have big or huge negative impacts, right? Maybe this is Joseph Ayoma who is asking this. Maybe would you care to elaborate what you're thinking about? Because this is something that I think is on everybody's mind. I'm not sure whether Joseph has the ability to unmute.
Joseph, you can unmute your mic to speak.
Thank you very much. Thank you very
Joseph, you are breaking.
much for this opportunity once again, Tunga, for the are you getting me now? Are you
yes,
getting me?
I'm getting you. I'm getting you. Yes.
Okay. Joseph,
all right, maybe I just need to carry on. I don't want to put you on the spot also. So I really appreciated your comments, because this is obviously true, right? I can tell you a couple of stories about huge negative mistakes that have been made. So what I have to say about that, it's one is what's very important. It's to have a safe working environment, right? It's to have an environment where your colleagues also know and appreciate the value of making mistakes. And it could be, of course, that you make such a great mistake that there's no repairing. there is always always that scenario. So what's very important, I would say, in this situation is if you ever feel very unsure about something, or there's something going on that you really don't know, to talk about it with your colleagues and to share it. And I think this is also part of being a leader. It's to be vulnerable. But it's a very good question that you have. So let me continue. I talked about this one. Yeah, and that's, I think, the point. The next point, it's the fourth step, or the fourth tip, is to be open for feedback. We talked about making mistakes as a vehicle to learn. Yeah, feedback is the second vehicle to learn. And if you're not open to feedback, then you will not get that feedback. And if you don't get that feedback, then you don't know what's going on. And so, for example, I'm now in the situation where I'm giving a webinar. Again, it's the first time that I'm live on YouTube. I'm sure there are a couple of things that I'm doing right now that I could do better, right? So if I'm not open to feedback, nobody's going to tell me. And even if they tell me, I'm not open, so I won't believe them, or I won't hear it. Yeah. And then the next time that I'm live on YouTube, I don't know what I should have done better or what I could do better. So that's a very important step. And then lastly, it's to focus on the process of learning. So having a growth mindset, learning something new, it's a process. It's not an action plan. It is not a result. It is a process. It's a journey where you go through. And if you don't allow that process to happen, then you're going to load yourself with negative or unrealistic expectations. So yes, that is the first part about having a growth mindset. And I see here in Q&A, is there any difference between mistake and error in IT? Oh, sorry. Interesting question, Jonathan. For me, for this topic, I would say it doesn't really matter, right? So an error is another word for a small mistake. So making errors, making mistakes, for having a growth mindset, is basically the same thing. Oh, yeah, done. Okay. Yes, so the next part will be about different leadership styles. So a definition of leadership, yeah, I already saw it a little bit in the chat, so I'm going to go over this right now. Definition that I like is that leadership is the skill required to guide or influence people or groups of people towards a certain goal. Now, historically, when I first researched this topic, what I found really interesting is that it's actually a fairly new concept. And so only about 200 years ago did the word leadership enter the English dictionary. Because before that time, leadership was not really a topic that people thought about or that people investigated. In the old days or before that time, it was a given that you would follow a king, or you would follow a leader, or anyone in a hierarchical position. But then about 200 years ago, that the world changed in a way that leadership and basically the art of influencing people towards a certain goal through politics became an interesting concept. So that is something that, well, at least I found very interesting. So personal leadership, what are the ways that you can show leadership, which then means guiding or influencing other people in your current role? So maybe use the chat box for this. I saw a lot of different professions coming along, including veterinarians. So anything that you would like to share about what are ways in your current role, so where you are right now, that you think you can show leadership, which means influencing other people to achieve a certain goal. Please put your ideas in the chat box. And let's see what we get. Helping other colleagues with any problems. Yeah, leadership by example. And are there any situations in which you have used that or can use that in your current role? Being punctual is a very good one. Yes. In a team, yeah, through teamwork. Yes. Mentoring, communication, getting involved, encouraging, communication again. Yeah, listening. Yeah, absolutely. Motivating, showing empathy, taking up roles, conflict resolution, organizing meetings. Yeah. Help to provide a solution. Showing empathy again. Yeah. Being accountable. Yeah. So you can see that there are in most roles that people have, I would argue in any role that any person has, there are ways in which you can show leadership and in which you can influence others. So I thought punctuality was a very interesting one. If you are always on time, right, you influence others to be so as well. So if you are always right there at the start of every meeting, or if you say, hey, I'm going to deliver something for you at 5 o'clock, and you deliver it to them at 5 o'clock, you thereby influence them. So you thereby influence saying, hey, this is what I find important, and you basically encourage others to do the same. Taking a fall for the team, that's an interesting one. Yeah, I'm not sure how to read that. I didn't expect that one. Servant leader, we'll get to that. There will be an interesting question about servant leadership. Yeah. So there are a lot of different ways in which you can show leadership, and we can talk about these different ways also about leadership style. So a leadership style is a leader's style of providing direction, implementing plans, motivating people. So it's about how do you do that, and what is basically the way that you do that. So usually these different leadership styles evolve around, or they are they are described in terms of decision making. And because what we saw is that any situation in which a decision needs to be taken, that's a decision where you need a leader. So here I have a list of the 8 most common or most notable leadership styles. I do not plan them to be exhaustive. Bami, yes, you've raised your hand.
Yeah, I think we want to take the poll now before you explain this for us. Yeah.
Let me first explain it, and then we'll do the poll. All right.
All right. Okay then.
I'll quickly go over them. Right. So authoritarian leadership is a situation where decision-making power is centralized, which leads to very quick decision-making but little inclusiveness. Democratic is where decision-making is shared within a group by promoting interest. The decision-making itself is much longer, but the inclusiveness is much higher. A laissez-faire leader is also possible, where decision-making is delegated almost entirely, often with little direction. This leads to high levels of autonomy. So that's the benefit. Task-oriented leaders are leaders that are very focused on how tasks are performed and goals are met. Relation-oriented leaders are leaders who are focused on the relations they have with other members in the organization or with clients, for example. You can have a paternalistic leadership where there's a strong hierarchy, but limitation of choices. It looks a little bit like authoritarian leadership, but there's a bigger motivation usually. Reminds me a little bit about the comment about taking the fall for a team, could be a bit paternalistic in that sense. And you have servant leadership, where leadership focuses on shaping structures and culture within which decisions can be made by anyone. So a leader who's not focusing on making the decision, but shaping a situation in which a decision can be made. Then it's time for the poll indeed, because then the next question is, which leadership style do you have?
Okay. All right. So,
and please punch in what you think.
Just like
it started, right?
Yes, it started.
Yeah. Oh, I can see them coming in very quickly right now. It's like a race. So obviously there's no right or wrong here. So there are no statements about whether one is better than the other yet. There's no right or wrong. This is just what you think is your leadership style. Wow, this is really going quickly. We already have 80 answers of, what is it, 120 participants?
Yes.
Xavier, you raised your hand. 2 participants have raised their hands. Maybe
Okay.
while the remainders are finishing the poll. Yes?
You can unmute to speak. I'm not sure I can pronounce this. Xavier, you can mute to speak. And Victoria. Okay.
Yes, any question?
All right. I think we are good for the
otherwise you can also type it in the Q&A. So we almost have 100 answers in. Would be great to make the 100. We need one more. Yes. Okay, so can we share the results?
Yes.
So what is, sorry, Victoria, you didn't get the question. So what is your leadership style? So as a leader, what kind of style do you use? Do you use authoritarian, democratic, task-oriented style? So that's the question. We see that democratic wins out. So most people deem themselves to be a democratic leader. Interesting. I think it's a very difficult leadership style. It takes a lot of balancing to be a good democratic leader, but it can lead to great results, right? Most people would say they're task-oriented also. Oh, sorry, no, 25% says they're task-oriented. We also see a lot of people that are relation-oriented, and servant leadership. We see that when we talk about the more extreme styles, maybe authoritarian, laissez-faire, paternalistic. Those are definitely less common. Then we go to the next question, which is also a quick poll. Is authoritarian leadership always bad? It has a bad name. It's not something that if you read any article, and it says authoritarian, it's usually met in a bad way, right? So, but is authoritarian leadership always bad? Will we see them coming in? Already 50. It's a simple question, yes or no. Is authoritarian leadership always bad? Already 70 respondents. So let's see if we can make the 100 before we close it. We are almost there. Another hand raised by Xavier. You can unmute if you want to ask something, and otherwise you can put it in the Q&A if you'd like.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Is totalitarian leadership always bad? My answer is no. Totalitarian is not, the totalitarian leadership is not always bad, because sometimes the leader is supposed to take action while even if the people who are led by that leader doesn't accept what.
Yeah. Yeah, so you could argue that. So sometimes you need to take a decision, regardless of what the other people in an organization think about that decision. I think we can end the poll right now, Bami, and show the results.
Okay.
I can do that myself, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So most people say no. 76%. Yeah, and an example of that is Elon Musk, who I would say is, yeah, arguably a very authoritarian leader, but yeah, he produces some great results. So he's building very successful companies, and with those companies, he's also, focusing on social change. So yeah, this leadership style is working for him. Yeah. And then we're going to the next one, which is also a quick poll. Yeah, servant leadership, that has a very good name, but is that always good? So I'm launching this poll right now. Yeah, is servant leadership always good? So it's the opposite of the previous question, which should give you maybe a small hint. But yeah, servant leadership is it has a very good name. It's of course due to agile way of working, it has become very popular to think of yourself or to try and become a servant leader. But then the question is also there, is it always the right choice? The leadership style. So we have about 90 answers again, and I'm going to end the poll and I'm going to share the results. So it's a little bit closer there. Interesting. So more people say that, well, it's pretty much always good. To be honest, I think it's less clear cut than the other one, but you have the situation where everybody's looking away and they don't know what to do about the situation. And yeah, then yeah, leadership, it's about taking decisions. And if you don't take the decision, if you focus on letting people or letting a team take decisions that they're not at that moment capable of doing that, yeah, that can lead to bad outcomes. So I would argue that there are situations in which service leadership may not be the best type. So this is not to say the example about authoritarian leadership and servant leadership is that it's always bad or it's always good. What I'm trying to illustrate here is that there are situations in which you need to adapt your leadership style, but we'll come more to this a little bit later. Then we go to a tough call. Leadership, what we said, it's the skill required to guide or influence people or groups of people towards a certain goal. So yeah, what then happens is when you are the leader, right, or you are in a leadership position and you don't know how to get to that goal, right? What do you do then? Is there still a basis for leadership? Please put it in the chat what you think. And so this is a very tough call. I see Sozi Malik asking a question about where the leadership styles discuss to details. Well, I didn't go very much into the details, to be honest. So I'm sure we can make these slides available to people. But we did post a definition about it a little bit back. So what happens in situations where you are not sure how to get to a certain goal? All right, go back to the problem statement, understand the scope. Let your team members help you out. Good leaders should know how to get to their goal. Ask other people their views and suggestions, asking more people. Consult with mentors and team, ask for help, seek help. Yeah, seek advice from experienced leaders, absolutely. Research, yeah, communicate. Yeah, ask your team members. So I see a lot of people saying you should ask for help, but I do see some people with different help. So some people saying ask for help from other leaders or a mentor or someone like that, or ask your team members. Consult your team. Yeah, absolutely, open discussions. So I would definitely argue that that is the right way to do it. There can be situations in which you would say, yeah, I'd rather not discuss this with my team openly at first, right? And let me first go to somebody who I trust, or a mentor, or another leader in the same organization, and ask them for their advice. But usually I would say making yourself vulnerable as a leader is a good strategy, and it's a good way of showing that you're able to also understand your own limits. But still, yeah, it can be that you still don't know how to get to a goal, and that brings me to this advice, and that is that the worst decision is a decision that is not taken. And I'm referring here to the diving chain of effects. So this is a phenomenon that is known as, or it means basically that small errors can lead up to big mistakes. And that is, with diving, that can be truly, truly dangerous. So they did an analysis of diving accidents, and they basically saw that all these terrible accidents that happened during diving, the vast majority of them, they stemmed from a small mistake going wrong in the beginning, and people either not noticing or not taking the decision to act upon that mistake. Now, that mistake leading to other mistakes, and thereby rolling over and rolling further until you're in a situation where you can't solve it anymore, and you are basically in a dangerous situation. And that can also be in a project, of course, or it can be with your team. So as a leader, be wary of the fact that, yeah, it's better to take a decision that you're not 100% sure of than not to take a decision. So if you look away, if you say, yeah, I'm not capable of taking this decision, then you're creating an environment where you're not leading anymore. So this is basically wrapping up leadership styles. Just looking at my time a little bit, I think I'm still good. So now, hopefully you've learned a little bit about the importance of having a growth mindset as a leader. You learned about different leadership styles. And now I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about building culture. It's a short section, and then we're going to our final bit. Now, building culture. Why this is important for me. This is epitomized in this quote from Peter Drucker. Peter Drucker is one of the business gurus of the past. And he always said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Now, I ask you, what did Peter Drucker mean when he said this? What does this quote mean? Culture eats strategy for breakfast. What does it say? And Anybody would like to comment in the chat? What does the quote "culture eats strategy for breakfast" really mean? What is he referring to? Yes. Culture is more important than strategy. You need strategy to build culture. Not exactly. Anybody else? Behavior. Yeah, they were touching upon something. Culture is superior to strategy in certain ways. Yeah, powerful. Supersedes strategy. Yeah. So what is a company, right? A company in this day and time and age, it usually is it consists of people doing stuff together, right? So he or yeah, if I look at Tunga, for example, so what do we own? We rent a couple of offices, we own a couple of computers, right? We own a couple of tables and desks, but really who we are, right? We are a group of people working together to a common goal. That's what Tunga is. That's what the organization is. Sometimes you work in a different organization where you have like equipment or things like that, but that equipment also doesn't work by itself, right? So you need people to operate the equipment. So the vast majority of what makes up work in an organization are its people. And people, they have something in common, and that is that they behave, right? They do things. They either show up on time or they don't show up on time, right? People, they talk with each other or they don't talk with each other. They share information or they don't share information. Now, and what this man, Peter Drucker, meant is that you can devise the best, the most brilliant, the greatest strategy this world has ever seen. But if the people in your organization are not going to act on it, it is going to be completely worthless. So as a leader, you can have this great idea about how all the problems of your team will disappear if we just implement this. But if nobody gets your strategy, if nobody understands your strategy, nobody's going to do it. And if there's no culture of following goals, if there's no culture of working together with each other, this strategy is going to be eaten up. And I saw a very intelligent quote for somebody who's obviously read Peter Drucker, who said he didn't mean that strategy was unimportant, but rather that a powerful and empowering culture was a surer route to organizational success. Absolutely. And I saw a couple of things here. Culture supersedes strategy. As a leader, I would always choose to focus on culture before you focus on strategy. And so focus on people doing what they say, saying what they do. Focus on people that are willing to learn and that are willing to make mistakes. Focus on people who are able to acknowledge making mistakes. Create a culture where it's normal that you are on time, that you that you take care of your work. If you have that culture in place, you can basically absorb any strategy that you set out to achieve together. And that's why as a leader, so we typically have this idea of a leader who has these spreadsheets and who's thinking about what are the goals and who is this visionary, right, of where we want to be. And that is all very, very important. But if that leader is not focusing on the culture that is necessary to establish that strategy, then that leader is ultimately not going to have a very good time. The good thing is you can build a culture, and actually it's not that hard, right? Okay, it's a little bit hard, but the steps you need to take to get to that culture, they are quite intelligible. So this is a 3-step process that you can practice tomorrow or right now if you'd like. And the first step is just simply to speak up about the culture that you want. Again, punctuality, I love that comment that somebody made. Yeah, if somebody comes in, you have a meeting with somebody, right? And they come in 5 minutes late. Do you say something about it or not, right? Doesn't mean that you need to get angry or anything like that, but if you have a discussion and you say, hey, you know, I've been waiting here for 5 minutes. I could have used this time elsewhere. Yeah, could you please come on time next time? And that's the first step, is to speak up about what kind of culture do you want and what do you expect from others, right? And then we get automatically, right, we roll into the second part, which is to agree. Because maybe that person says that, like, you know, I have back-to-back meetings today. You know, excuse me if I'm going to the bathroom after one of these meetings and I'm 5 minutes late. Now, so you can set a rule. And that rule could be, you know, if you think you're late, don't worry about it. Just send me a message and then I know you're late. Right? So then we start to build a culture. Right? So we've agreed that we'd like people to be in time for meetings. And we set up a rule that, yeah, if by some chance you cannot make it, which is always possible, of course, you just send a message, right? Now, and then the third one is to start addressing it. And this is actually the hardest part, or the hard part. Yeah, so the next time it goes well, right? Person is on time. Second time, person is on time. But the third time, the person is not on time. Yeah, then, you know, it takes a leader to point out and say, hey, you know, couple of weeks ago we had this discussion, yeah, and we discussed that if you couldn't make it, you would communicate it to me. You didn't do that. Could you please do that next time, right? So this is the hard part, but you know, if you consequently do this, this will build a culture. And this three-step process, you can frame this on anything that you would like. So we talked about punctuality in meetings right now. We can talk about how do you share notes, yeah, how do you deliver certain results, about coding standards. There are lots of things that you can talk about, and it all comes down to this. And so first, to speak up about the kind of culture that you want, to agree with each other what are the rules that we will abide to, and then the last part is to point out infractions to those rules. And why is that latter part so important? That is because actions speak louder than words. So these are the core values, and this is the culture of a company called Enron. The values are integrity, communication, respect, excellence. Now that sounds like a lovely company to work with. And who would ever think that they would be involved in one of the biggest security frauds in the history of the US? Nobody did, but they were. So they embezzled a tremendous amount of money. You can Google it, the case, but it was a terrible fraud case. Yeah, and these were their values, right? So what you say that you are does not represent, you know, what you truly are. And what you say that your culture is does not represent your culture. What represents your culture are your habits, or it's your actions. And so it's not, I'm not saying that it's not a good idea or it's not worthwhile to write down what you believe. All I'm saying is that's not the same as the culture that you create. And so you can write down, we value that we are professional, for example. So in your organization, you can say one of our values is professionalism. But yeah, the question is, are the people acting in a professional way, right? And that is those habits. That is, as a leader, that is what you should focus on. So thereby, I conclude the section on culture. Are there any questions? I answered that question. If there are not other questions, then I'm going to move on to the final part. And this is where leadership really gets interesting, situational leadership. So yeah, what happens when you show the same leadership style in every situation. We already talked about this, of course, in the example of authoritarian leadership and servant leadership. Yeah, then you're going to have a very bad time because you're going to display a leadership style that is not fit. So situational leadership, it's basically, I would say it's the next level if you are a leader to facilitate. It's choosing the right leadership style for the right situation. And why did I choose this funny picture is because I think that this is an example of a leader who always chooses the same leadership style. And in some ways that works very, very well for this gentleman, but there are also a multitude of ways where it got into a whole lot of trouble. And these things can be avoided for you if you are aware of the fact that sometimes you have to pick a different leadership style. Now, the obvious question then becomes, yeah, how do I know which leadership style I should adopt? Now, and then I'm going to give you the help of looking at 3 axes. So this 3 axis model is actually something I would like you to ingrain it into everything you do, because it's very, very suitable for also thinking about coaching, thinking about mentoring, thinking about the change that you make in your organization. But how to adapt your style, there are different ways to look at individuals, teams, and the entire organization. Now, let's start at the center, start at individuals. So here I have a picture of situational leadership. So this is the model that you can Google also quite easily. And what you see in this model is that on the horizontal axis, you can see the directive behavior that you as a leader need to show. And on the vertical level, you see the supportive behavior that you as a leader need to show. Right? And then below, you see from right to left, you see developing capabilities of the individual that you are leading. Right? Now, the whole idea about this model is that, let's say I have a new team member, right? There's a new team member joining your team. When they start, they don't know what to do yet, right? Even if they are, very experienced in the certain technology or they have a lot of expertise, they don't know your team, right? They need information, they don't know where to get it. They need to achieve something, they don't know what it is, right? So you need to tell them these things. Now, if you act then in a way of saying, oh, just figure it out and you'll be great, that person is going to have a very difficult time, obviously. So you first have to acknowledge where this person is in their role. And usually people start in S1, which is a situation where they are really willing to learn. If you're a new team member, it's always an exciting time. You want to achieve something. So the willingness is very high, but the competence is low because they simply don't know where to get it, right? In those situations, supportive behavior is not most important. Most important is directed behavior, to tell people, okay, this is what you need to do. This is when you need to get that information. This is what I expect you from tomorrow. And remember your own onboarding. You would get to know, okay, what do I need to do almost on a hourly basis. Now, when people then progress, they gain competence and their commitment goes a little bit lower, right? Because they're already in a role for quite some time, but they're not fully competent yet. So this is a situation where you need to show more supportive behavior as well, where you need to motivate people, where you need to help them to understand, hey, you're going through this process, you're gaining in competence, and you just need to hang in there and follow through. And then people gain their competence, their commitment also starts to increase again. And now basically you can drop your directive behavior and you don't have to tell people what to do anymore, but you have to support them. As that means taking decisions together, but not necessarily being there when people need to execute those decisions. And then finally, when people have achieved a high competence and a high commitment, then you can basically let your directive behavior and your supportive behavior go, and you can give people the autonomy they need to fulfill tasks. Now, if you show S1 leadership behavior to someone who is in S4, yeah, they will be very frustrated because they have high competence and you are telling them exactly what they need to do, right? Which is not very motivating. If somebody is in S2 and you're showing them S4 leadership, they will also struggle and be very dissatisfied because you're not telling them what they need to do and you're not showing them any support and they don't have the competence yet to fulfill their task the way they need to. So it's a little bit a complex model to go over this in a couple of minutes, but I hope that you get the idea of the fact that, yeah, individuals are at different stages in their roles, and thus you need to show them a different leadership style in those different stages. So I hope that concept makes sense. So when we go over to the forming, storming, norming, and performing phases of team development. So this is a model developed by Bruce Tuckman. Also something, please Google it, right? There's so much information about this on the net. Forming, storming, norming, performing. I'm going to focus on the first 4 phases. So this is a model that teaches you about team development. And so let's take here the hypothetical situation where a new team is formed for a specific project, or maybe in an organization. Then the first stage is always forming. People are very happy to be there. A lot of socializing. People are generally quite polite to each other, but also they are sticking to safe topics. And as a leader, it's very important that you take the lead, that you are visible, and that people understand. Okay, this is the leader. This is the person that I can go to ask questions. It's important to facilitate, to provide a big picture as the team starts. Now then you're going into a rough patch, and it's called the storming phase. And the bad news is this always happens, right? It's something that you cannot avoid, and also it's not necessary to avoid it. I'll get to that later. So the storming phase is where resistance comes up. You'll see lack of participation. There's basically conflict. And that is quite logical if you think about it, because what is happening when you're forming a team? You're putting together all these people that don't know each other, and suddenly they have to work, 40 hours a week together, completing tasks in a very high pressure environment often. So yeah, it kind of makes sense that, they get a little bit pissed at each other sometimes. So when people start to work together and they start to take decisions together, they can disagree. So person A wants to go left and person B wants to go right. Yeah, we can't do both, right? We need to discuss together what way to go. But it can also be in working styles. So some people are morning persons, some people are evening persons. Okay, when are we going to plan this meeting together then? If you wake up at 6 in the morning and I wake up at 1 in the afternoon, when are we going to do that? These are extreme examples, of course, but that is the situation in which you get. Now, the worst thing that you can do as a leader is to remember this, when we talked about not taking a decision, is not to acknowledge this. Because the storming is necessary for a group to discuss together what they think is normal. So then we go into the norming phase. So as a leader, you're basically encouraging this feedback in the storming phase. You're identifying issues, you're facilitating this discussion together, and then we go into the norming phase, where you can talk about, okay, but what then do we agree upon, right? And that can be on the direction the team needs to take, but it can also be on these mundane things like being on time or having a meeting at 11 o'clock in the morning or anything like that. And when you successfully reach that stage, this is when performance starts to kick in, because the purpose and the goals are well understood. People are confident, they know what they can expect from one another. And basically that storming also led to a sense of relief, And as a leader, it's important to facilitate this process, to recognize it also, to basically point out the things that are going really well, and to provide also this continuous feedback loop. And then you get in the happy, merry phase of performing, where there's high motivation and trust. People have been working together for a long period of time. A consistent performance, and as a leader, a lot of your job is done right now because the team can take care of itself. So this is a great model to understand group dynamics, group leadership, and how you should act in that sense. So if you ever are a team leader, this is something that you can refer to. And I got also, if you are a team leader, I got some news for you. Every time you put a new member in your team, you have to go through these phases again, because basically you're creating a new team, and this person is going to create a new dynamic, and you're going through forming again, you're going through storming and norming and performing again, maybe in different levels, right? So it can take a little bit, it can be a bit shorter, can also be a bit longer sometimes, but these are the phases that you're going through. So meanwhile, I can see some, I see some questions about sharing the slides, which I think we will see whether we can facilitate that. Yeah, so lastly, is the organization level. So you have to ensure that your leadership style also matches the organization. Now, I've chosen this picture because you don't really think about doing yoga in the military. I don't want to I don't want to set here any standards or anything like that. But in a organization, there is a certain culture, right? And that culture can lean more towards the authoritarian culture, or it can lean more towards a democratic culture. If you then adopt a leadership style that does not match that organization or does not match the culture, then people are going to find that very difficult to handle. They're going to find it very difficult to accept. And then you're going to be in a very difficult situation as a leader, because it will be tremendously difficult for you to influence others. So you can think of yourself as, I have this certain leadership style, I'm a democratic leader. But if the organization in which you are, and it can be your own organization or the organization of your client in which you are working, if they are different, you're going to have to find a solution or a way of dealing with that. And it can be to adapt your leadership style. So the main message is for me, to be an effective leader, it means that you're able to adapt your leadership style to different situations and to different circumstances. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes this first soft skills bootcamp, apart from the Q&A, of course.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes.
So please, can we just give Reinier a round of applause in the chat? Thank you. Thank you very much for that amazing session. And if you have questions and you have not asked yet, kindly put them in the Q&A. Put them in Q&A so that Reinier can take those questions in the next 10 minutes, and then we'll wrap up. So in the meantime, please let me give Reinier a very round of applause. Thank you very much for that amazing session. It was really, really amazing.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Because I was really, really like getting a lot. And I think what resonated with me more was the part where you say that what you say that you are doesn't really represent you as a person. It is your actions and your culture that actually represent you, and that really, really resonated with me. So thank you very much, Reinier. I'm going to take that to my corner.
happy for that.
Thank you very much. And I'm sure a lot of people also learn one thing or the other. I mean, a lot of people will be learning a lot of things from this session, and we are so looking forward to tomorrow Please, are you guys excited about tomorrow? Because if day one can be as amazing as this, you can imagine how the rest of the days will be like. So anyways, let's see if we have any question that needs to be answered. Yeah, we are excited.
I have one question here from Abubakar Ismail about how to get tips on this. I'm not exactly sure what is being referred to.
So Abubakar, if you're still on the call, can you like unmute and explain what you're referring to in your question? And also if you have any other question, you can unmute to speak.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr.
Afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Peter. Please, I wanted to ask, there are some slides that the presenter highlighted. One can Google for more explanation. I don't know if we can provide like a kind of reference or link.
Yeah, so this particular model is if you type in situational leadership in Google, then you will find this.
Okay,
it's a very common model. And the other one is if you type in forming, storming, norming, performing, if you type that in Google, you will also find this model. I did not invent this, unfortunately. So these are things that I also learned in my career. And I think these are great models to help you understand individual development and team development. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay.
I see a question from Jonathan. And can we say situational leadership is synonymous to flexible leadership? Yeah, I think in a certain sense you can. Yeah, so yeah, I think you can. I think flexible leadership for me, it resounds a little bit like you can be anybody you want to be, right? And that's maybe a bit too much to say, right? So yeah, so it can be that certain leadership styles just don't fit you very well, right? Then you can try to take on that style, but if that doesn't resonate for you as a person, you won't be successful at it. So I think situational leadership for me is more acknowledging that every situation needs a different response, and acknowledging that individuals and teams and organizations can all be in a different state that you need to respond differently to. But to a large degree, I would say, yeah, it's synonymous to flexible leadership. Any other questions?
I don't think we have any. So, okay, I think we have one now.
Yeah, is it advisable to choose a leadership style based on the culture of the people being led? Well, yes and no. If that culture is successful, yes. If that culture is not successful, or no. Well, that's maybe a bit short, but yeah, it can be that you want to change the culture, of course, right? So remember what we talked about is that, yeah, if you want to achieve your results, you need to build the culture first before you can build a strategy, right? So if there are certain, and a culture can also be negative, right? So people not honoring their agreements, it's also part of a culture, right? And it could be that you want to change that. Maybe there's a very authoritarian culture where people don't listen to each other, and thereby the best ideas don't get put forward because they're literally not heard, right? Maybe you want to change that. So in general, I would say your leadership style has to fit the culture of the people in a team or an organization, but it doesn't mean it has to be the same as that culture. I hope that doesn't make it too complex. Any other questions?
Oh, yes, we have another one.
Yeah, but note for this
Yes.
presentation, yeah, Bami, I think you're going to take care of that. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. So we'll be sending you all the presentation of all the speakers after the event, so you can
Great.
get And we'll be sending you the recordings too. So in case you just want to listen to it all over again, you can as well do that.
All right. Well, then I'll stop sharing.
All right. So it was an amazing session. And thank you very much, Reinier, for sharing your knowledge with us. Thanks everyone for joining. We are coming back here tomorrow, same time, same place. Okay, I think Kelvin has something to say. But before then, we are coming back here tomorrow, same time, same place. You all should tell your friends that are not here today, but they are missing, because tomorrow we'll be talking about risk management, which is also a very, very important soft skill to have. So before I move on, Kelvin, can you unmute your mic?